The Premier League 2024-25 season is right around the corner, so it's only right that I make my predictions on the entire campaign and see who's gonna win the title, finish top 4, and maybe even get relegated. And trust me, you're gonna want to stay till the end, because there's gonna be a lot of upsets in my predictions. Why? Because I love being bold, so let's get straight into it. As the legend Drizzy would say, we're gonna begin with 20th place, and I might be going for a surprising pick. It's Leicester City. Yes, I know, they're a pretty big club. They just had an extremely successful season in the Championship, winning the league title with almost 100 points, and they won the Premier League title back in 2016 as well. But for me, I can't see Leicester City staying up despite their recent history, and I got them going straight back down. Here's why. For starters, they lost their manager, Enzo Maresca, to Chelsea, and he's the genius behind Leicester even winning the Championship, and with him having experience under one of the greatest managers ever, Pep Guardiola, losing that top managerial experience will hurt Leicester for sure. And I know, Steve Cooper's in charge now, and he's a decent manager, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that this managerial appointment gives me enough confidence that he'll save Leicester from the drop. Not only did Leicester lose their manager though, but they also lost their best player arguably last season, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, who also just left to Chelsea for around 35 million euros. Chelsea are leaving Leicester for dead. You hate to see it. Staying on the topic of Leicester though, they haven't really signed anybody to replace a top player like Dewsbury-Hall too. And they also lost Alexander Iheanacho, Dennis Pratt, and Mark Albrighton this summer. Plus, Leicester are currently rumored to be receiving a Premier League points deduction for breaching the PSR loss limits last season. And with the points deduction to an already weakened squad, I just don't see how Leicester survives this. The only hope I can say for Leicester though is they do have some decent options in the attack. And despite Jamie Vardy being an old man now at 38, he can guide the young players, like Isahaku Fatu, the talented right-sided winger from Ghana, to excel in the Prem. Plus, with more attackers coming in like Facundo Boanate and Bobby de Cordova-Reid, maybe Leicester can be saved. But for me though, I don't think there's any chance. Sorry Leicester, but y'all are going down. Moving on to 19th place, I'm actually going to say another team that just got promoted from the Championship. It's Southampton. No cap, I completely forgot Southampton even made it to the Premier League before I started making this video. Irrelevant! Anyways, I'm just not moved by Southampton at all, to be honest. They lost a couple of their most notable players, like Che Adams, who had a surprising move to Torino in my opinion on a free transfer, and they lost 3 defenders as well, with Lianco, Luce Galetakar, and Romain Perraud all leaving the club. And even though they try to replace his presence with a young and talented center back from Man City, Taylor Harwood-Bellis, I just don't think that that'll be enough. And to be quite honest with y'all, I don't even know who this guy is. I just saw that Southampton splashed 23 million euros on a guy from Man City that I never even heard of. Irrelevant! Regardless as well, they've lost some good attackers, and Southampton's choice to replace his attacking presence is the one and only Ben Brereton Diaz. I'm sorry bruh, I just do not rate this man at all. I know he had a few goals for Sheffield last season, but let's be honest, he ain't all that. So to be quite transparent with y'all, unless Southampton go crazy in the recent days of the transfer window, I see them going straight back down. But I did hear some good things about the Japanese signings that they've made this window, especially Yukinara Sugawara, the right back from AZ Alkmaar. He'll be an interesting watch, but he or any of the Japanese signings will not be enough to save Southampton from the drop. Sorry. Now I'm actually going to repeat last season's relegation fate, where all 3 newly promoted teams will go down, and this time I'm going to have to say that Ipswich Town will sadly finish in 18th place. I say sadly because I actually really wanted Ipswich Town to come into the Prem. I really love their manager's story, Kieran McKenna, and how he led this team to back-to-back promotions from League 1 to the Premier League with a relatively low budget. Like, you only really hear about these sort of things on like FIFA career mode, not in real life. So hats off to him, that must have been hard as hell. But although I rate the manager quite highly, I think the budget restriction is going to eventually hurt Ipswich Town. Listen, a majority of the squad that Ipswich has is pretty much the same from their League 1 days, and reality is going to hit like a motherfucking truck when the Premier League starts. This is a whole new level that some of these players are not ready for. Now to Ipswich credit, they did try to spend some money and get some decent players in, like Amari Hutchinson for example, an ex-Arsenal Academy product and formerly Chelsea player who did play for Ipswich last season on loan, and is now signed permanently with the club for around 23.5 million euros, which is a good signing. Then Ipswich went ahead and signed Jacob Greaves, the young center back from Hull City for 21.5 million euros, and then signed Liam Delap, the young Man City striker who barely got an opportunity, for 17.85 million euros. Now I think Ipswich fans are hoping that Liam has some sort of Cole Palmer situation, where he barely gets an opportunity under Pep, but excels at a different club, but respectfully, I think Cole Palmer's situation is slightly different. I don't think Mr. Liam here is going to be replicating anywhere near Palmer's form in the Prem. And apart from that, Ipswich have not done too much business. So basically, they're fucked. Yeah, they're just pretty much fucked. I don't really know what else to say, to be honest. I feel like I've given Ipswich their flowers, but I'm just being realistic here.
What's he getting? What's he getting? This is the big question. What's he getting? That tastes like
relegation. Now moving on to the team that's barely going to survive relegation, we got Nottingham Forest finishing in 17th place. They're literally going to barely survive just like they did last season.
I'm not leaving.
I'm not leaving!
I am inevitable.
Now in the transfer window for Nottingham Forest, there has been a lot of business done for Nuno Santos' men. Moussa Niakate got sold to Lyon, Vlacho Dimos got sold to Newcastle, Mangala got sold to Lyon as well, and then Fuller went back to Bologna. Giorena, Nuno Tavares, Gonzalo Montiel, Divock Origi, etc. loans ended as well. However, it wasn't just departures from Nottingham that happened. They did end up bringing a lot of players in, like Milenkovic from Fiorentina for 14.3 million euros, Jota Silva from Vitória for 7 million euros, Carlos Miguel from Corinthians, Marcos Stamanic from Red Star Belgrade, and Elliot Anderson for 41.2 million euros from Newcastle. Hold up, Vlacho Dimos went to Newcastle for an unreal price, while Elliot Anderson, out of all people, got sold for 40 million euros?
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Overall though, as we see from Nottingham Forest in the past couple of seasons, no matter how much money they'll spend, they'll always finish right above relegation. This is just a normality at this point, and I don't expect anything different for the upcoming 24-25 season. Moving on to 16th place in the league, I'm gonna actually have to go for Everton. So last season they actually finished 15th, which is one above where I got them for this season, but they actually would have been higher up in the table in 12th, I think, if it wasn't for that nasty points deduction. So y'all might be thinking, why am I placing Everton so low when they perform better than they placed? Is it just because I'm a biased Liverpool fan that doesn't want to see Everton do well? Well, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that kinda does play a part. But it's more than just that. Everton have lost some key pieces this summer. They lost one of their most talented attackers, Danjuma, whose loan ended. Dele Alli became a free agent, even though he might re-sign, I'm not too sure. Lewis Dalman has been sent to Aston Villa. Ben Godfrey, a decent center back, is now at Atalanta. And arguably their most important player these past couple of years, Amadou Onana,
And Andre is not even my name, mate.
has gone to Aston Villa for a huge fee of 59.35 million euros. Now that's a huge fee, and Everton used that to recruit some players in, like Jake O'Brien for 19.5 million euros, Iliman Ndiaye from Marseille for 18 million euros, Tim Arogbanam for 10.7 million euros. Wait, who even is this guy? Nah, man, this shit is suspicious again.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Anyways, then Everton signed Jesper Lindstrom on loan for the season, and they got the ultimate shithouse, Neil Maupay, back as well. But honestly, I think Everton will just play the same as last season, except just be worse since they lost some really good players. I don't think they'll be relegated though, because one, they have Sean Dyche. He's the ultimate shithouse Great Wall of China ad manager who sits back and absorbs and somehow gets 3 points occasionally. And then there's the fact that Everton have never been relegated before, and I don't think that's gonna change, no matter how much I dislike Everton. So yeah, let's now move on to 15th place, where I'm not gonna lie, some of y'all might say I got them too high, but I got Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now they finished 14th last season, so I'm not saying that there's going to be too much of a change, and the only reason for that, to be honest, is because I think Gary O'Neil is just a top manager. I'm sure he'll figure something out. Plus, it's like Wolves aren't doing any business either. They're getting a ton of players back from loans, like Fabio Silva, Gonçalo Guedes, Daniel Podence, etc. But they've also signed some decent players, like Tommy Doyle in the midfield from Man City, Pedro Lima from the Brazilian league, who I know nothing about in all honesty, Rodrigo Gomes from SC Braga for 15 million euros, and Jørgen Strand Larsen, the forward from Celta Vigo, on a loan deal. So it's not like Wolves aren't doing any business. It's just that in the little amount of departures that they had, they've lost some really good players. Arguably their most talented player, Pedro Neto, has surprisingly left the club to join Chelsea for around 60 million euros, which is a huge price tag. And whenever Neto did play for Wolves, he always seemed like the main player to watch and felt like he could always cook something up. The problem was his injury issues. He had a ton of them, but that's Chelsea's problem now, I guess. And then Wolves also ended up losing their captain, Max Kilman, to West Ham for a huge fee of 47.5 million euros. And this is going to be a huge loss for Wolves. But with that being said, Wolves have made over 100 million euros from these two departures, but yet the signings they've made have not been too convincing. Like sure, they're probably good players, but it's nothing crazy. But like I said, this shouldn't put them in a threat of relegation. I mean, they still got a bunch of good players on their team, like Matheus Cunha, João Gomez, Pablo Sarabia, and Hwang Hee-chan, for example, in the front. And then in the back, they still got Jose Sa, Semedo, Matt Doherty, Craig Dawson, Kijana Hover, etc. So it's not looking bad for Wolves by any means, but there won't be an improvement in this season for sure. Moving forward to 14th place in this upcoming Premier League season, I'm gonna have to go for Brentford. But before I explain my reasoning why, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it and it means a lot, so thank you. And also, if you guys can, follow my Twitter and my Instagram, both at Nabuto, if you just want to hear my thoughts on football games, transfers, and overall, just to get to know me more. So if you want to, feel free to hit me up with that follow. Thank you. Back to topic, I don't think there's been too many changes at Brentford at the time of me recording this, which is why I've chosen them to be at a similar position compared to last season. Regarding Brentford, most of the core players have stayed the same. Brian Mbeumo, Wissa, Rico Henry, Ethan Pinnock, Ben Mee, etc. are all still there. Even Ivan Toney, despite being heavily rumored to leave the club, he's still there as of right now. Now there have been reports of him potentially leaving for the Saudi League, which would be kinda crazy, but listen, go get your bag, you feel me? But if Brentford does keep Ivan Toney, Basically, the important players of the squad are all still intact. Plus, they just added another striker that can compete with Tony too, Igor Thiago, the Brazilian and Bulgarian striker that's coming to Club Brugge for 33 million euros. Brentford clearly believes in this guy, and when they signed him, I thought for sure that Tony was leaving, but I guess not as of right now. Additionally, Brentford has struck a deal with Liverpool for Fabio Carvalho, who had an excellent preseason for the Reds by the way, so I'm kinda sad to see him go. But with him potentially not getting that much game time, I guess this move made sense for all parties. So like I said, I see Brentford going up 2 places compared to last season, because they have kept most of the squad the same. And they're also adding new and talented players like Carvalho, Igor Thiago, and potentially more. Moving on to 13th place, I think I'm going to go for the safe answer and say Bournemouth. Here's why. Well, to be honest, I don't really know why I'm thinking this. I just think Andoni Iraola is a good manager, and I think he'll get the best out of this season. Additionally, along with keeping players like Luis Sinisterra and Unal, is signing a young and talented striker in Daniel Jebison and a very talented center back from Juventus, Dean Hudson. Bournemouth look like they've done some incredible business so far this summer. Here's the one problem though. They literally just lost Dominic Solanke, who has now joined Tottenham Hotspur. And mind you, Solanke bagged 21 goals in all competitions last season for Bournemouth, with 19 of those coming in the Premier League. If Bournemouth managed to keep him, I could say that maybe they can finish at the top half of the table. But with Solanke gone, I just think there's no chance. Maybe they should try and sign Eddie Nketiah from Arsenal though, after his move to Marseille fell apart. Just a thought. But overall, I don't think Bournemouth is bad enough to be anywhere near relegation. And I think they'll probably comfortably finish somewhere mid-table, just because they still got a good squad. Plus, Tyler Adams coming back from injury will also feel somewhat like a new signing. This time though, he just has to remain fit. I swear, this dude is always getting injured.
Another one. Another one. Another one.
But apart from that, nothing crazy about this prediction. Bournemouth will finish 13th. Now moving on to 12th place, I'm actually going to go for Fulham. I'm just going to be honest with y'all, all these mid-table clubs have something in common. They've all lost some really good players, and they've brought in some pretty good players. For Fulham this time, they lost João Palhinha to Bayern Munich for 51 million euros. Finally, this saga has come to an end. I used to pray for times like these. Tim Ream, a leader at Fulham, has now joined Charlotte in the MLS. Bobby de Cordova-Reid left on a free transfer to Leicester. Tosin Adarabioyo, one of the key center backs for Fulham, left to Chelsea on a free, etc. But even when Fulham lost some key players, they still signed the likes of Ryan Sessegnon, who joined on a free, Jorge Cuenca from Villarreal, and Emil Smith-Rowe has been freed from Arsenal shackles and has joined Fulham for 31.8 million euros. So with players going out and still some coming in, I got them finishing in a similar position compared to last season, 12th. Moving on from that, I got Crystal Palace finishing one spot below compared to last season, which is 11th place. And this is for one reason and one reason only, Michael Olise. He was one of the main figures at Crystal Palace last season, and in the 19 games he played in the Prem, he scored 10 goals and got 6 assists, meaning he almost got a goal contribution in every game. But now, he's decided to take the next step forward in his career and is left to Bayern Munich for around 53 million euros, meaning we've lost that dynamic duo of Eze and Olise that everyone was so excited to watch week in and week out. Luckily for Palace fans though, it seems like they're keeping Eze and Mateta, who turned out to be a top quality striker out of nowhere. So it's not like Palace will be struggling in the Prem or anything. I just think they're slightly worse compared to last season. They did make some decent signings in the window as well, like Daichi Kamada, who was exceptional at Frankfurt but failed to impress at Lazio. But if he replicates that Frankfurt form at Palace, I think that would be one hell of a signing. They also did sign a decent center back from Real Betis in Chadi Rayed. Before an Olise replacement, they signed Ismail Sarr for 15 million euros from Marseille. And although he's a good player, he ain't no Olise, and that's why they're finishing 11th place for me. Going over to 10th place, I think I'm going to have to go for another safe play and say that Brighton Hove Albion will go one place up compared to the season prior. Basically, Palace and Brighton swap places. Brighton is an interesting club to talk about right now because they haven't really lost too many players. Sure, Ansu Fati has gone back to Barca from his loan, but that's not a huge loss for Brighton. He barely did anything. And then Adam Lallana went back to Southampton, and Pascal Gross signed for Borussia Dortmund. But besides that in the player department, Brighton are chilling, especially when they brought in great players like the 19-year-old Godman right winger, Yankubo Minte from Feyenoord/Newcastle, Mats Wafer, an excellent defensive midfield option from Feyenoord for 30 million euros, Ibrahim Osman, the Ghanaian winger from Nordsjælland, etc. Plus with the Hood coming back on loan and potentially staying, and also Karim Mitoma returning from injury, those two will feel like new signings as well. The one problem for Brighton though is they lost their manager, Robert De Zerbi, to Marseille, and they replaced him with a somewhat inexperienced manager in Feynman Herzler, who is a German-American by the way. He represented the US during his playing days on the youth level and was born in Houston, Texas. And although he might be inexperienced, he did do well at St. Pauli, bringing them up to the Bundesliga before leaving. So he could be a potential top manager coming through the ranks, just like De Zerbi before he left. So Brighton for me is going to be a team to watch. I don't think they'll do anything too crazy, but it kind of will be like the season from before. From here on out, I think this is where my table is going to start looking really juicy, and this is where the upsets are probably going to start happening. And maybe this might be an upset to some of y'all, but in 9th place, I'm going to have to go for West Ham. Yeah, kind of shocking, but let me land. Yeah, they might have lost David Moyes, a West Ham legend now for sure after he led them to a European trophy, but to be completely honest, it was about damn time for West Ham to look look for an upgrade. And they found that in Julian Lopetegui, who I'm sure will bring more beautiful football to the Hammers. Not only that, West Ham's biggest losses in the transfer market has been Calvin Phillips, whose loan ended, but that guy's just straight booty now due to his injury issues, so it doesn't even matter. And they lost Saïd Benrahma to Olympique Lyon and Thilo Kehrer to Monaco. But both of those guys have been gone on loan last season, so West Ham already know how to deal with those two not being on the squad. And now let's look at some of the players that West Ham have brought in. They bought Max Kilman for 47.5 million euros from Wolves, as I mentioned before. That's a huge get. They then bought Crescencio Somerville from Leeds United for almost 30 million euros. That's also a huge get. And then they somehow convinced Nicholas Füllkrug to leave Borussia Dortmund and having a successful Euros to join them for around 27 million euros, which is an amazing deal if I say so myself. Then they signed an 18-year-old Brazilian right winger wonder kid from Palmeiras, Luis Guilherme, for 23 million euros. They hijacked Todibo's deal to Juventus and signed him instead on loan, and they're very well on their way to signing Aaron Wan-Bissaka from Manchester United as well. So West Ham are clearly rebuilding their squad, and so far it's looking mighty successful, and I think finishing 9th would be a huge success. The problem regarding West Ham for me though, and why I can't place them higher, is because the teams left on this list are simply better. It's literally just that. West Ham have done all the right things, but for me, the other teams I haven't gotten the chance to talk about yet are just better sides. Sorry West Ham fans, it's just the truth. Let's now move on to 8th place, the last spot on the Premier League table that won't get you a European spot, and I'm gonna have to say that Newcastle will be the ones finishing 8th. I know that guy from Pitchside who drops the most delusional absurd takes about Newcastle is gonna be pissed when he hears this. Anyways, the reason why I'm saying this is because I'm just not convinced by Newcastle's transfer activities, to be honest, when I actually think that Newcastle need to do a lot of business this summer. The thing for Newcastle though is they didn't really lose any important players. Like their biggest loss was Minte, who was on loan at Feyenoord this past season anyways, and Elliot Anderson, who had an extremely suspicious deal to Nottingham, while Vlacho Dimos went the other way to Newcastle. The thing for Newcastle though is they failed to secure a European spot last season, meaning if they want to return back to Europe, they have to improve the squad. And all they did was basically sign Lloyd Kelly on a free from Bournemouth, signed Lewis Hall on a permanent deal from Chelsea, and paid almost double over his market value by the way, and got Garant Quol, the Australian wonder kid, back from loan. And I'm not sure if he's going to get loaned out again or this time he'll stay. Regardless, Newcastle needs to do more business. And as of right now, at the time of recording this, they simply haven't. Plus, with the rumors of Anthony Gordon wanting to go to Liverpool, although I don't think it'll happen this summer, but if it does, Anthony Gordon is apparently ready to jump ship, meaning Newcastle probably needs to sign an established or upcoming winger, and they haven't yet. So for me, although I still rate the squad and manager, Eddie Howe, highly, I'ma still say they're going to miss out on a European spot and finish 8th place. Now going over to 7th place, this might be a big upset to some of y'all, but for me, this is a no-brainer. I got Manchester United finishing in 7th place. To cut straight to the chase, I really don't rate the side, like at all, I'm sorry. I know they just won the FA Cup last season, and that's a great achievement, don't get me wrong, but that's not the Premier League, bruh. In fact, last season, they finished 8th in the Prem, and if it wasn't for United clutching on the final against City in the FA Cup, they would have 0 European football this season, and Erik ten Hag would have probably gone the sack in my opinion. But instead, he's now got the backing of the board, and him and United have been active in the transfer market. But even then, I'm still not moved. Hear me out. Yes, they signed Lenny Yoro from Lille, a center back who had the interest of Real Madrid, but since Madrid weren't willing to pay too much for him, he was essentially forced to join United, and he seems to be a talented player, and for 62 million euros, I sure hope he is. But this man got an injury during preseason, and now he'll be out for like 2 to 3 months, so that's tough. Then there's Xerxes, and I mean, he had a good season for Bologna, and I don't know too much about him. All I remember is that one clip of Vincent Kompany roasting the absolute shit out of him back at Anderlecht. Then there's Jadon Sancho, who's kind of returning as a new signing too, after Ten Hag and him squashed their beef. But he literally just had a bad showing in the Community Shield, and missed a penalty that played a part in United losing the game. Then I think there's some other players facing some injury issues, like Haaland for example, I'm pretty sure he's injured. And with the future of Amrabat being undecided, and Anthony Martial, Rafael Varane, and Kabala all leaving, it seems that United might be a little low on depth. But even if they weren't, I think they're going to do the same as last season, if not slightly better. I mean, 7th place isn't a position that United should be proud of getting, but I don't see them getting any higher than that, respectfully. Moving over to 6th place, I think this might be an upset to some of y'all out there, but I got Chelsea finishing in 6th. Now here's my issue with Chelsea. I think Todd Bowley is generally treating football like FIFA career mode. Like this dude is just signing everything and everybody, and I feel like there's not really a plan in place. Like this dude went from almost signing Omicron or whatever his name is from Atletico Madrid, to then having that deal fall apart, to now almost being able to sign João Felix, a completely different profile of striker. There's no plan, I swear. Also, they've signed so many people in this transfer window that I've lost count on genuinely who Chelsea still have. How are Chelsea not getting punched with the transfer ban? I have no idea. Maybe they're preparing for the ban already, so they're just signing everybody now. And if they are, I guess it's kind of fair to be honest. Anyways, just stick with me. Let me lay out everybody that Chelsea has signed this summer. Starting off with the manager, they got Enzo Maresca, then they signed Pedro Neto from Wolves for 60 million euros, Dewsbury Hall from Leicester for 35.4 million euros, Philip Hornson from Villarreal for 24.5 million euros, Omari Kellyman from Aston Villa under 21 side for 24.5 million euros.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Then Aaron Anselmino from Boca Juniors, Renato Vega from Basel for 14 million euros, then Caleb Wiley from Atlanta United for 10.10 million euros, but he just got loaned out to Strasbourg, which is fair enough, and also so did the other American player at Chelsea, Gabriel Solina, who also got loaned out to League One side Barnsley. Man, Chelsea really ruined this guy, bro. What the hell?
Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy.
Then they signed Marc Gui from Barcelona for 60 million euros, Adder Rabiot from Fulham on a free, then they got Kepa back from loan, etc. So Chelsea have just been going crazy, signing everything and everybody. They might as well sign me too, bruh. Let me get some Premier League experience before I switch to Liverpool. Call me the next Mohamed Salah. Now maybe I would have placed Chelsea higher up on the table with all the signings they made, but they had a really poor preseason campaign. They literally only beat Club America and managed to draw to Wrexham 2-2, lost to Celtic 4-1, Man City 4-2, Real Madrid 2-1, and then drew to Inter 1-1. I know preseason really doesn't mean anything, but for a new squad and a new manager, this is slightly concerning, but I think eventually they'll figure it out. So 6th place seems pretty reasonable to me. Swiftly moving on to 5th place, I think I'm rating this club higher than other people, but I got Aston Villa having another good Premier League campaign and finishing just outside the top 4. Here's why. First, I highly rate their manager Unai Emery. I think he's a top coach who was disrespected at Arsenal, and everybody knows that now, with Aston Villa making the Conference League semi-finals and also finishing in the top 4 of the Premier League last season, meaning they have qualified for the Champions League this upcoming 24-25 campaign. And that's actually the reason why I don't have them making it again, because trying to get in the top 4 while already being in the Champions League is kind of difficult. We all saw the toll it took on Newcastle. But anyways, Aston Villa are making some really good signings in the transfer market, which is why I have them quite high on my table. Yes, I'm fully aware Villa have lost some key pieces, like Douglas Luiz, who has now left to join Juventus for 51.5 million euros, and Moussa Diaby decided to chase the bag in Saudi and join Al Ittihad for 60 million euros. But Villa have used that money well and have replaced these two crucial players, and have added the likes of Amadou Onana from Everton for almost 60 million euros, as I mentioned some time back, Ian Monson for Borussia Dortmund / Chelsea for 44.5 million euros, Cameron Archer for almost 17 million euros, Jadon Philogene for 16 million euros, Samuel Ealing Jr. from Juventus for 14 million euros, Enzo Barrenechea for 8 million euros, Louis Dobbin from Everton for almost 12 million euros, and Ross Barkley, who had a great season at Luton last year, for almost 6 million euros. So even though Villa lost a couple of key pieces, they still made some great signings and managed to keep some of their most important players, like Ollie Watkins, Leon Bailey, Emiliano Martinez, etc. So safe to say, Villa are looking pretty good. And although it's a long season, I think Villa have now got some decent depth to help them out, which is why I got them in 5th. Now for 4th place in the league, making it to the Champions League again, I got Tottenham Hotspur. I know, just hear me out. I rate Ange Postecoglou, the Spurs manager, a lot, man. I think he's top quality, and I think if his squad stays fit throughout the season, I can definitely see him playing a huge part in Tottenham securing top spot. Not only that, Tottenham's biggest departure this summer was Emerson Royale to AC Milan, and that guy's not even that good in the first place, which means Tottenham haven't really lost anybody too important in the summer transfer window. On top of that, they've made a couple of good signings, like Archie Gray from Leeds United for 41.25 million euros, and then Dominic Solanke, as I mentioned some time back. So it seems like Tottenham are only building on top of what they already have, and I think things are looking quite decent for them. Here's the issue regarding Tottenham though, it's the fact that they're Tottenham. They're definitely not better than the 3 teams remaining, and they're also not going to win anything this season, because of course, they're Tottenham. Winning things is just not in their DNA. Now for 3rd place, I'm going to have to go for a huge upset here, and I'm actually going to have to put Manchester City. Wait, don't comment anything rash or wild just yet. Just hear me out, man. Let me land. Man City have taken some huge hits this summer. Not only is there 115 charges being investigated properly next month, and a result of the case will probably happen in early 2025, where they might get docked points if not relegated, but they've lost a key piece this summer in Julian Alvarez, with him signing for Atletico Madrid for I think around 75 million euros, which is a huge loss for City. And the only loss Man City have made is Savinho for 25 million euros, another very suspicious deal, but not as suspicious as the other ones, let's be honest. After all, this Savinho or Savio dude cooked for Girona last season. But additionally, on top of all this, Man City have won 4 Premier League titles in a row. And yes, I know, they still have a damn good squad, but I feel like it's inevitable that they'll eventually lose the title. Like 5 in a row in the Premier League is simply just crazy, and I don't think they'll do it. Plus, with Erling Haaland having that absolute stinker in the Community Shield, if he does that multiple times a season with no Julian Alvarez to come on and save the day, I think City could actually be cooked. Plus, when you add the fact that Pep Guardiola is on his last season, I think, and he might leave, I think, and low-key I'm hoping, that this season will be the start of Man City's downfall. And if that's the case, I will be there no matter what. In all honesty, Man City are really good. I just don't want to see them winning again, and for that, I'm putting them 3rd place. And now it's time to see who I got winning the Premier League title for the 2024-25 campaign. Will it be my club Liverpool, who I may or may not be biased about, or will it be Arsenal? Well, I just received some news a few minutes before writing this part of the script, and I'm definitely putting Liverpool 2nd. Let me explain my reasoning. 1, Liverpool have done absolutely fuck all in the transfer market. Yes, I know, we just got Arne Slot in, and with the Euros and Copa America happening this summer, it was inevitable that August would be the only month where Liverpool would be able to strengthen the team. But guess what? It's 2 weeks into August at the time we're recording this, and we've still signed absolutely nobody. And want to know what makes things worse? We were after Martin Zubimendi, who would have completed the 6 profile that we've been looking for. But instead, he decided to reject Liverpool after giving us his word and stay at Real Sociedad, where he's going to be mid-table and win absolutely nothing for his entire career. Absolutely terrible decision from him. I don't know what this dude was thinking, but if his ambition is really that low, maybe it's better that we don't sign the guy. Here's the thing though, after this rejection, apparently Liverpool won't be signing a 6 anymore. Are you serious? Michael Edwards, Richard Hughes, do something, bruh. Even Van Dijk came out earlier and said that we need some signings to freshen up the squad. And now we're still the only Premier League side, in fact the only top 5 league side, that has not made a single signing. And we just lost Fabio Carvalho to Brentford too. And we might sell Bobby Clark to RB Salzburg and Tyler Morton to maybe Atalanta or RB Leipzig. Like bro, what are we doing?
What are we doing? What are we doing?
Now don't get me wrong, the preseason results look pretty good, especially that 2-1 win over Arsenal, the 3-0 win over United, and the 1-0 win over Real Betis. Slot ball looks good, but if we don't make any signings, we'll have zero depth, and we'll accomplish absolutely nothing in the season. We need to be better, and so far we haven't been, which is why I can't see us winning the league. But despite my raging and ranting, we are still a very good side, so anything less than top 3 is something I just simply can't see happening. So yeah, but now I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think this 24-25 season will be the year where Arsenal will finally win the Premier League title once again. This is why. They've lost 0 key pieces in the summer, and yes, I said Emile Smith-Rowe left, but this guy was not a key piece. Don't let him wearing the number 10 at Arsenal fool you. This dude literally did nothing last season. I don't even remember him playing. And besides that, Arsenal really didn't lose anybody except for a couple free transfers that nobody really cares about. Maybe they'll lose Eddie and Nketiah in the next few days, but that isn't really a huge loss either. Instead though, Arsenal managed to permanently sign David Raya from Brentford, which is good, and Calafiori, you know, that extremely good looking dude who performed hella well at the Euros for Italy this summer and Bologna this past season. Yeah, he's set for Arsenal for around 45 million euros. What a signing this is to an already stacked defense containing the likes of Gabriel and Saliba. And with Arsenal already having a great squad with great players, and with them already having the history of pushing City to the end of the Premier League season, I think Arsenal can finally do it and win the league. Now of course, I'm hoping that me saying this will perform an absolute massive jinx on Arsenal and they don't get anywhere near the Premier League title. Twitter will literally be on hellfire. I don't want to see this happen. But if Arsenal does manage to pull this off, you can't say that it's not deserved. Anyways, let me know your guys' Premier League predictions on the upcoming 24-25 season. And let me know who you guys got winning the league, finishing in top 4, and getting relegated. I would love to know what you guys think. Now if you enjoy this one, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. And please remember to follow my Twitter and my Instagram. The links are in my YouTube description. And last but not least, if you want to learn about everything that has happened in the World Cup 2026 qualifier so far, and by the way, it's been absolutely insane, you definitely want to check out this video right here. You won't regret it.